All right, what is up, everybody? Okay, so up until this point, we've learned how to set up the trig ratio, how to solve for side lengths using trig, because remember we needed at least one angle and one side measure. So now we're going to take a look at how to use trig to solve for missing angle measures. Now the original part of this problem is going to be exactly the same as far as how we decide which trig function to use, except now we're going to use the inverse function at the very end to get our angle measure. Okay, so x degrees, that's obviously going to be our focus angle, and then we have our two sides that are given to us, 10 and 16. Now we could use Pythagorean theorem to find our third side. However, we only need two sides if we want to find that angle, so we're just going to stick with using the 10 and the 16. So if x is our focus angle, then the 10 is an opposite leg, the 16 is an adjacent leg, and based off our acronym, so TOA, which one uses an opposite and adjacent? That would be tangent. So the tangent of x degrees equals opposite over adjacent. And now here's where this gets different compared to what we've done before. Now, normally we're just using the normal trig function, and we're taking the tangent of an angle. We're either multiplying it by a side length, or we're dividing it, or we're dividing a side length, right? Here's where you have to use what we call the inverse trig function, because this value right here is a decimal, right? It's going to be 10 divided by 16 is going to be some decimal value. Now, that decimal value is associated with some degree measure within the tangent function. Now your calculator has that angle stored in it, but we need to evaluate it by using the inverse function. And so the trig inverse is denoted by a negative power 1, or to the negative 1 power. So what happens now is we're going to take the inverse function of 10 divided by 16, and that's going to equal our angle measure for x. And so what you're going to want to do to enter this into your calculator is you have to press the second or the shift button, and then you're going to press tangent, and that should pop up. When you do that, it should give you a tan to the negative 1. And then after that, you're going to want to open a parenthesis if it doesn't open one for you, and do 10 divided by 16, and then close your parenthesis. The reason why, guys, is because if you don't do that, it might do like the inverse tangent of 10, which would give you an error probably in your calculator, and then it might multiply that by, or divide that by 16. It's just always safe to put this as a in parentheses in your fraction, okay? Excuse me, in parentheses, put the fraction in the parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go inverse tangent on my own calculator, and then open a parenthesis, 10 divided by 16, and that gets me 32, like almost exactly. So that angle measure is 32 degrees. Now, if you're using the calculator online, I don't think it puts up a tan to the negative 1. It puts something else, and the button that you want to use for the shift is a yellow button in like the top left-hand corner, I believe. Okay, I'll see if I can make a video to show you how that would work. But that's all you got to do. It really is that simple. The biggest thing is making sure that you use the correct trig function, and then making sure that you enter it in your calculator correctly. All right? Let's look at another problem. Okay, so here we have our focus angle is y. Now the 6 is an opposite. The h is a hypotenuse, so which trig function uses opposite and hypotenuse? Sine. So that would be the sine of y equals opposite over hypotenuse. We now then would access our inverse trig function, so inverse of sine of 6 divided by 8 equals our y degree measure. And then you go ahead and enter this the same way. So you hit the second or the shift button, you press the sine, that sine to the negative 1 should pop up. Go ahead and open your parenthesis, 6 divided by 8, and we get 48.6. Now, guys, you do not have to reduce these fractions, okay? It's kind of just a waste of time because you're going to enter it into the calculator anyway. So again, you do not have to reduce these fractions because you're just putting it into the calculator. Okay. Pretty simple once you get the hang of it, to be honest. Let's go ahead and do one more. So our focus angle is Z. 7 is an adjacent. The 12 is a hypotenuse. So adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So the cosine of Z equals adjacent over hypotenuse. We take our inverse trig function of 7 divided by 12, and that's going to get us our degree measure for Z. So inverse cosine, 7 divided by 12, Z equals 54.3 degrees. And that's it, guys. Okay, it's just good practice. Again, making sure that you use the correct trig function. Is it sine, cosine, or tangent? And then just being proficient by being able to put it in your calculator. That's all there is to it. Short video today. Give you time to work on your stuff today. All right, good luck.